Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak, right here, Steve Kallas, my man right over there. How you doing, Steven?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always.
You too. Well, we're closing in on Selection Sunday. Always a good time. One of my favorite days of the year. But before we get to that, let's talk a little NBA because a couple things. That trade for the Sixers looks, to me, anyone who thought the Nets won that trade, I'm sorry. They got a Hall of Famer for a guy who wasn't playing, and him playing with Embiid. Harden even admit he doesn't even know the plays yet. And he had triple-double in the second game. They're undefeated. They're scoring 127 points a game. Looks pretty good. I'm not going to go crazy yet because they haven't played any really good opponents yet. And then you got Brooklyn. Durant's back, and they lose. But Durant's back, and Kyrie, you don't know what's up with him. That's a stupid rule that he's allowed in the building. But he can't play at home. But guys that can come in, the whole team can be unvaccinated and play. And then you got the Lakers. I don't know if you watched that game the other night with all the 26 turnovers, and they lost by 25 at home. What a mess. Can you sort out the NBA a little bit for us right now?
Yeah, I give the Sixers a big shot because I don't know if it was his hamstring or whatever it was, but boy, he sure looked good when he came back. And the question that we talked about was, is Harden? Because during the year with the Nets, on days he looked like Harden, other days, they had the new rules that kind of hurt his shooting, getting fouled. He didn't seem to be as quick, but lo and behold, after that All-Star break and that miraculous healing and that trade that he wanted, I think Embiid, Maxey looks like the number 3 now, by the way, not Tobias Harris. If he gets it together, they're going to be dangerous.
They're going to be pretty good.
I won't say they'll have a big 4, but they'll have a humongous 2 and then 2 guys who can be 3. Mm-hmm. But Embiid, Harden, and Maxey are the first 3 teammates, I think, to score 20 or more points 4 games in a row, all 3 of them, since like 2006.
Maxey had 33.
I forget. I know Arenas was on that team. I forget who the other guys were, but it was, in 15 years. And Embiid's always going to get 20. Harden's going to get 20 every time he wants. And Maxey's become a real scorer. I mean, he had 33 the other night. I mean, he's really good. As for the other guys, I don't know what it almost looks to me like LeBron wants out of Los Angeles. They're horrific. The Clippers, who have no Kawhi, and I don't even think Paul George is back yet. I don't think he played the other day. They went on a 23-0 run and beat the Lakers for the 7th straight time. I mean, that's incredible.
That's incredible.
So the Lakers are a total mess. Can they get it together? The Lakers and the Nets, the big question is, can they get it together by the playoffs? But as you've said time and time again, AD is always hurt. I mean, when is he not hurt?
Is he not hurt?
And as I told you, when you turn on a Brooklyn Nets game, you really have a question. How many are playing? 0, 1, 2, or 3? And when Durant was hurt, and it was a home game, it was always 0, always, since the trade. Simmons must be working on his mental health, or he has a back issue. And as you said a month ago, he ain't playing against Philly. And lo and behold, he's got that back problem, and he's not going to be ready for Philly. We'll see if he comes in the next game after that. But the Nets are a mess. Durant came in and played great. It was interesting to me because if you watch, and I did, the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game, what do you want to do? You got your superstar. What you want to do is give him the ball every time he wants it. And the first 5 or 6 minutes, they didn't always look for him. I remember one time when a guy on the Nets, I don't even know who it was, maybe Bruce Brown, was going to the basket down the middle, and Durant was on the other side behind the 3-point line all by himself going like this. And Brown made the layup, the little scoop shot. So he's probably thinking, well, I scored. And I'm thinking, no. If Kevin Durant is open and coming back from injury and wide open, give him the damn ball. So he took 2 bad shots the first couple of times he had it. There were a couple of times they should have ran every play for Durant as far as I'm concerned. But after that little 5-6 minute stretch, he was Kevin Durant. He scored 31. And but it wasn't enough. And don't forget, this is against the Miami team that didn't have Jimmy Butler, didn't have Kyle Lowry, didn't have PJ Tucker. And again, now when you turn on an NBA game, Joe, don't tell me who's playing. Tell me who's not playing. The Knicks are in Phoenix to play Phoenix after getting, beat easily by the 76ers, the two prior games. As you said, they haven't really beaten anybody serious when you're playing the Knicks. And you turn on the TV, and not only is Chris Paul not playing, he's hurt, but Devin Booker's not playing. And you're like, wow, the Knicks have a chance. and Randall, I don't know what happened to Randall. But the play that I saw, there was a switch. This Cam Johnson, who cannot remotely match Randall physically, is guarding him. Shot goes up from the other side. Randall comes in, kind of pushes him out of the way and then elbows him. After the ball goes in, Randall, Cam Johnson, he just pushes him a little bit, and Randall goes ballistic and gets not one tech, but two. He gets thrown out of the game. The Knicks had just gone up 10 because Fournier on that play hit a three. And what happens? They lose at the buzzer. And, from what, a bank shot 3-pointer, from straight ahead, maybe it was good. But again, my point is, tell me who's playing, even though Phoenix won. That's more a compliment. That's more a shame on the Knicks because how bad are the Knicks. But you really, is AD playing? No. The Clippers show up every night without Kawhi, and they haven't had Paul George. Didn't he miss like 20 games or something? It's just so wacky, but there's so much injury, I guess. I just don't know, but it's hard to watch these games because, again, you don't know who's playing, the Nets being the biggest example. So now on Sunday, they're playing in Boston tomorrow. This is Saturday morning. So Durant will play and Kyrie will play. So they got 2/3. When's Ben Simmons coming? He's got a bad back. You'd like to hope he would have been in some kind of remote game shape.
What's he been doing for his back for the last, 9 months?
Heating pad. I don't know. I shouldn't make fun of him. It might be really, Joe, as you said, it might be I'm just not playing March 10th. So I'll get in shape. We'll have a big excuse. I mean, just like Harden wasn't going to play. And then amazingly,
let me give it a couple games to make it look like it still needed a few games to heal. And I didn't just come back and then he gets back in the lineup. He's killing it, just killing it. I mean, and the fact that a while back, I think when Brooklyn didn't want to do a trade with Daryl Morey, Maxey was in the proposed deal along with Seth Curry and, Thibault maybe as well. And the deal didn't happen, and it came to crunch time, and they were able to keep Maxey, he's just 21 years old.
Yeah, and you probably know the 76ers apparently signed DeAndre Jordan.
Yes,
and they've got from no help for Embiid to Embiid, Drummond.
Yeah,
who can play,
right?
And I don't know DeAndre Jordan, when he's good, he can play, but they now got a couple of guys when Embiid's off the court who are, pretty good big men, not that they're Embiid, but defensively, etc. And, lobs and dunks, the deal. The other guy I wanted to mention, because the Warriors have kind of fallen off a cliff. They're no Draymond Green. They're 15-14 without him. He's been out forever. The gang's all there if Draymond Green shows up, but we always knew he was a key factor, even though they had the Splash Brothers when they were winning championships. And then when Durant showed up, it was unfair. But, they got hammered by Doncic, had 41 the other night. So once again, if Golden State doesn't get back Draymond, if the Nets can't get their big three, if AD can't play, it's going to be like last year. You got to hope Paul comes back, healthy. I think Booker is in COVID protocols, by the way, and he's already had COVID, I think. So as we always say, just tell me who's playing. And when the playoffs start, I'll pick the healthiest team, whoever they are.
Exactly.
Oh, one more thing. So the Bulls, who on paper have had a great season, right? I saw a stat this morning on ESPN. The Bulls are 0-13 against the top three teams in each conference. So to me, that eliminates them as good as they played. 0-13, Joe.
Not right.
That's hard.
You figure in 13 times. By the way, Andre Drummond, I forgot all about. He actually went over to Brooklyn in that trade.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I
No,
should
that's
have.
okay.
I've actually seen him playing and he's been playing well. So that's totally my mistake.
No, that's all
Thanks
good.
for correcting me.
Kevin Durant, he wins the MVP of the finals, 2 championships. And then he invests in Kyrie Irving instead of staying with his investment that's already, going through the roof with Steph Curry and, Clay and my man you just mentioned from Michigan State. And he comes here and Kyrie does his weirdness and goes off, and then he doesn't take a shot. And, and of course, Durant's hurt all the time too. And then Harden gets traded because he doesn't want to be there. So every home game right now, it's just Durant. It was supposed to be the big 3. He goes there and how do you think he looks back at that? And because, of any major iconic star, I think this is just my opinion, he cares what people say about him on Twitter, what they think of him. He got ridden hard from losing that game in Oklahoma City to Golden State after being up a game. Golden State won a championship, and then he went there the next year and then they won 2 because he couldn't get over the hump, and he got hammered for that. Hey, listen, he gave it a shot. I'm fine with what he did, but I think that might have had something to do with it. And he thought he'd go win somewhere else with another big 3. Now it's just a big 1 when they're home. What do you think he thinks of all that at this point?
Well, I think he was really tight with Kyrie, and I think Kyrie essentially talked him into coming, but Harden bailed. I guess Durant, if he wanted to force his way out, he could force his way out, but I have no idea where he wants to go. Again, it's like Harden's going to all these places. Now it looks like he's found a resting place, but he's got a $47 million player option for next year, Harden. And so the 76ers have no choice unless they want to extend him. I don't think he's going to opt out of a $47 million player option. And he's Harden. Again, there was a real question early in the season. Is he James Harden?
He looks like Harden to me.
Before he got hurt. So I think Durant deep down is disappointed. I don't think even though he reacts to guys who criticize him on Twitter, why I have no idea.
Right.
But he's Kevin Durant. But I think within the league, within his teammates, within what he wants to do, I think he keeps that all to himself. You don't really hear him even giving a snip that he doesn't want to be here. Just when he doesn't want to be here, he'll be gone. I don't know if he can do that with the Nets. I don't know if he wants to, but even if Kyrie can play all the games, even if Ben Simmons comes back, it's getting shorter and shorter, Joe. You need, fill in the blank, 30, 40, 50, 80 games. You need something. And I don't think the Nets are in a position where they're going to have an easy first round where they could play a playoff round with the 3 of them, if they can play the 3 of them, if they're all healthy. And if the rule changes in New York, I was saying before, they should dump not to have home court advantage. Well, they haven't dumped to not have home court advantage. I mean, they haven't dumped not to have home court advantage, but they may not have home court advantage. That may be a good thing if they don't change the dopey rule. It's what you said, man. If you're unvaccinated, come on in and play, visiting team. But if you're on our team, no, you can't play. It's not an NBA rule. It's a New York rule. And it just sounds beyond stupid. And I know the mayor, Eric Adams in New York, has talked about how stupid it is, but he still hasn't pulled the trigger. I don't know if he's under pressure from other sports teams to keep it where it is for the safety of others. But again, it's what you said. The whole visiting team could be unvaccinated. Kyrie can come in and sit in the building and cough all he wants now. He's actually allowed to go in. I mean, it's just another stupid thing in another stupid world we're living in. But that's what, that's where it is.
Talk a little, and that's crazy. That's just.
If I could do one more thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
The not weekly, but certainly monthly, Steve Kallas, congratulations to an NBA player. So congratulations to Trae Young. Yesterday, he had his 47th 30 or more points and 10 or more assists. And ESPN puts up, here are the number of games and people, the leaders who have, since the merger, 1976-77, who have 30 or more points and 10 or more assists in a game. James Harden, the leader with 99. LeBron has 93. Westbrook has 83. Magic has 58. And Trae Young and Iverson are tied for fifth with 47. And as they're leaving out of there, the announcer goes, and Trae Young, only one person in the history of the NBA has more 30-point, 10-assist games than Trae Young before the age of 23, and that person is Oscar. So Oscar is number one, and Trae Young is number two, according to ESPN, on, 30-point, 10-assist games, 23 and younger. So I think, well, if Harden has 99, and Oscar had more than 47 before he's 23, or by the time he's 23, let me take a quick look at Oscar's game-by-game stats to see how long it's going to take him to get to 99. Because I know he's got to have more than 99. He averaged a triple-double for his first 5 years. And by the time I got to the end of year four, keep in mind, again, he averaged a triple-double for his first 5 years, and he averaged like a triple-double maybe, but with 9.9 rebounds for his first 6 years. And lo and behold, after 4 years, Oscar Robertson has 30 or more points and 10 or more assists in 105 games.
That's unbelievable.
So after 4 years, he's beaten every guy since the merger, where they're keeping these stats and putting them up like, it's always like, because, when you look at Wilt and Russell and Oscar, when you put up the records today, they don't beat the records that Wilt and Oscar have. You got to do the last 50 years or the last since the merger. That'll be the new one now. I just wanted to point that out and congratulate Trae Young.
I love it, man. Let's talk a little NCAA, the top 6 teams. I think you said first time in show, first time they all lost in one weekend. That was last weekend. So again, I mentioned March Madness or Selection Sunday coming up, but big story right now is probably Coach K, winningest coach of all time, Division I, I believe, 5 championships, back-to-back in the early 90s. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And last game in Cameron Indoor, we think, tomorrow night against or tonight. Is it tonight or tomorrow night? Today is Saturday, right?
Saturday, tonight.
Against North Carolina. Fitting that it will be, 9 miles down the road, down Tobacco Road. But, your thoughts on, probably a lot to get into a 30-minute podcast, but if you can, kind of encapsulate, what Coach K has meant to college hoops.
Well, one of the greatest coaches ever, played for Bobby Knight at Army 100 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Not much to say. One of the greatest college coaches ever, Olympic success. I kind of like him a lot. I know he gets nasty in the huddle and he curses a lot. He's always giving you almost like the choir boy stuff outside of that.
All right.
But you know how it is with the Cameron Crazies there in those home games at Duke. He can really lose his mind. But again, a great coach, a great recruiter. You go back to those glory days you're going to talk about with, Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley, which are the teams I remember, Grant Hill. But yeah, one of the three. The three for me in college would be, I put Bobby Knight first, Wooden second, Coach K third. I put Bobby Knight first because he did more with less than any coach in the history of college basketball. He had one NBA All-Star, Isaiah.
How about that?
And won 3 championships. Wooden had, five McDonald's All-Americans on his bench every year from high school. Not to knock Wooden, but it was different. It was it's much harder later than it is back then. So those are my rankings. But yeah, Coach K, final. Can they make a run? Are they good enough? They're good. And you never know what can happen in the tourney because it's one and done. But yeah, fitting, as you said, for them to play Carolina. They're arch rivals forever. And, I wish him well. I think he's like 74 or 75 years old. So it's probably a good time to go. And he's trying to set it up for the next guy. But Hubert Davis is finding out, I think. Right? Is Hubert Davis the coach of North Carolina this year? I think it's his first year.
I believe he is, yeah.
Yeah, he's finding out how hard it is. You don't want to be the guy to follow the legend. You want to be the guy to follow the guy who follows the legend.
Exactly.
And it's going to be tough.
in the over my career as a fan and whatnot, I did happen to be lucky enough to, I saw a game in Cameron indoor. Oh God, back in the mid '90s, we went to see Carolina at the Dean Dome on senior night, play Florida State. Giving 17.5. Florida State almost won the game, actually. Eric Montross was throwing up air balls from the free throw line, getting booed on senior night. But anyway, the next day, my buddy John DeSangro, who worked for John Chaney, we saw Temple and Duke. It was an experience being down there. It was very cool. But what I remember about, and I'm just thinking before I even went into this, 1992, I worked at the Spectrum, working for Prism, a couple years out of college. I was still a kid, but I remember, because the regional semis and the regional finals they went through Philadelphia that year. UMass, Seton Hall, Danny Hurley, Bobby's brother, UMass with Marcus Camby and Calipari, and of course Duke. And then you got Jamal Mashburn, Kentucky. Rick Pitino was, star quality all over the place. I remember going out to watch practice because I worked down there. I just scoot out to the ball and sit there, and I just remember the aura of Duke. I didn't even like them that much, but man, the aura and respect for them, and of course they knocked off my UNLV team, and that would be in the subsequent days. But right before the game, they played Seton Hall on a Thursday night, and of course the whole crowd, Duke was chanting Bobby's better because he's playing his brother Danny. And Danny was having a hard game, and Bobby was taking him to school. And then it was the Leitner game, and I saw that it was like 20 feet from it when it happened. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. I was just lucky to be there. I went on the court. I was actually, shook hands with Leitner as he was walking off. And then we were in the locker room. Again, working media. No, we were there to watch the game. We had nothing. We were for Flyers and Sixers, but that's where we worked. So I used the passes. I go in the locker room, and I'm looking around because everyone's still stunned. Bobby Hurley's over there. Just couldn't believe it. And a couple guys are looking at the sheet. And I knew that Leitner, I don't know if everyone knew, but he was 10 for 10 from the field and 10 for 10 from the line. And I remember during that game watching he was taking these crazy turnaround, and he was dropping everything. I'm like, gee, no. Oh, wow, no. Boom, and he was just making everything. I was with two other guys, one the late Gary Papa. They both liked Kentucky in the game. I had Duke, so I'm now rooting for Duke. And Clay Buckley, a guy I went to high school with, played for the Duke the year before. So I had a little tie in there, but we're in the locker room after. Everyone's like stunned. It was kind of eerily, kind of not crazy. It was more of stunned. I have the sheet. I still have it somewhere. I've moved a few times. It was the box scores and the game stat sheet. Leitner 10 for 10 from the field, 10 for 10 line. And Coach K walks by, and I was with a buddy of mine. I looked up, and he kind of stopped, and he kind of was looking over our shoulder. And I looked up, and I'm like, and this was 30 years ago, and he was still Coach K then. I said, 10 for 10, 10 and 10 for 10. You ever seen a better game than that? He looks and goes, his defense was a little soft, and he walked away. I'm now a fan. I'm now a huge fan. Huge fan of Coach K. That was my only Coach K story, but it was the game of games. That's what you remember Duke, or I remember Duke about, and knocking off UNLV, which looking back, it hurt them, but very impressive because they lost by 30 the year before in the title game. Bobby Hurley was sick to his stomach and kept going to the bathroom, and it was a debacle, and they came back and beat him in the national semis, the undefeated UNLV team. But just amazing. You could say, well, he could have had more. Yeah, 5 championships. You don't win them every time you're there, no matter how good you are. Beating Wisconsin a few years ago with that team with Frank, I forget his last name. They had like 7 guys. Duke had 7 guys that played. Their bench was like 2 guys deep. And I just saw a thing from Marty Clark. I don't know if you remember Marty Clark. He was a guard, but McCaffrey was there, and Hurley was still in front of him. He was highly recruited, sat the bench, and he sent a thing. Coach K called him up, and it was just this thing now. A lot of people are like coming up with stories that he went through alcoholism. The only reason I remember Marty Clark is in the Indiana game in the national semis. Grant Hill fouled out. This redheaded kid looks like Howdy Doody comes off the bench. No one ever heard of him, unless you were like a big high school guy. Like Marty Clark coming in cold off the bench, final minute, he hits 5 or 6 free throws because everyone's fouling that kid. No one's fouling the other guy. They go right after him. And he talked about that game and how coach always kept him ready, even though he was disappointed. He was never getting any playing time, but he had some alcoholism problems. And coach called him when he heard, and he didn't want it to get out, especially didn't want to disappoint Coach K, but he said that was the turning point. Coach didn't care, didn't judge, and he kind of like put him on the right path. And it was a nice little story. But anyway, yeah, Coach K and Duke, I know people are Duke fatigued, maybe not recently, but it's just amazing what they've done. And he did it in like the era where everyone stayed 4 years, and he's done it in the era where guys come and go after 1 year. And just an impressive career. Of course, one of their championships was over that Fab Five team back in the day with, led by Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, and Juwan Howard is now the head coach of Michigan. We didn't get a chance to touch on this last week because we didn't have a podcast last week, but after the Wisconsin game 2 Sundays ago, you can talk about I don't care about the timeout. Look, you're down by 15. You really upset that they called a timeout anyway, Juwan Howard had a problem with it because they were trying to break a press up 15. I wouldn't have cared. He did. And then he actually took a swipe at the assistant coach after the head coach kind of probably shouldn't have put his hands on Juwan Howard when they were talking in the handshake line. And Howard got 5. What'd you think of that? Howard got 5 games. I can't remember what the Wisconsin coach got. 1, 2.
Well, I don't think he got.
Anything. No.
Well, the thing about Howard to me is the play before, which nobody saw because they didn't show it to you. But the play before, the Wisconsin coach had put in all his scrubs. Michigan still had a couple of starters on the floor. They were down 15, and they caused the turnover. I don't know if it was a 10-second violation. I'm not sure what it was, but they either got a steal or called the turnover, went the other way, and scored a basket. And this guy put his subs in with he called timeout with 48 seconds to put his subs in. So they turn the ball over. Michigan scores. They're coming back the other way. The coach sees that there's going to be a 10-second violation. And so he calls time. Michigan is pressing down 15 with a couple of their starters. So what do you do?
They're pressing. If you're going to press, then
what do you do? What are you doing, Juwan Howard?
What are you
doing?
Exactly.
And then afterwards, he did touch him. You shouldn't touch him. And then someone from Michigan, I think, said, "Oh, he felt threatened." Juwan Howard, you're 6'9", 250. This guy looked like he was about 5'7".
Tallest guy in the building.
And then you got that old, I grew up in a tough neighborhood kind of reaction. And he should be smarter than that. And he is smarter than that. He's Juwan Howard. But I think the bigger picture there was they were top 10 preseason. They were 14-11. A bubble team and still are a bubble team. They lost the other day to Illinois. So they're 15-12, I think, or 16-12. And he's out for the rest of the regular season. And apparently at first the behind story was apparently he didn't really want to apologize. And somebody, maybe Michigan got to him and said, you better. I think he was the coach of the year last year in the whole country. At least one organization gave him coach of the year. And either he came to his senses or somebody said, look, you better apologize profusely or you're going to be in deep trouble, which is also kind of sad that you have to be told that.
Yeah, right.
But it was totally uncalled for. But, the bottom line to me is if you're down 15 and you're going to lose and the winning team puts the scrubs in, if you're not going to put your scrubs in, don't press.
Don't press.
And I don't blame the guy for calling time because he didn't want his subs to have two turnovers in a row. He wanted them to at least run one play in a Big Ten game against Michigan.
So you're right. So if you're going to do that, I'm calling timeout.
Now, the other question is, does the coach after the game have to explain to Juwan Howard right then and there? And I think once he started and Juwan Howard wanted no part of it, he should have walked away. And then in the press conference afterwards, say what he said.
Right.
Exactly. So there's a little fault on both sides, but it's overwhelmingly Juwan Howard's fault. He should have known better. And I think he does know better. But again, you lose your mind in these games. Randall last night got thrown out of the game on the dumbest thing. He hurt the other guy. and was mad because he gave him like a little push in the back. And you're sitting there going, and you played, you lose your mind for sure. But these guys are professionals or Big Ten coaches, former professionals, and you got to think they would know better. And that's kind of what hurts your team in more ways than one. And so Michigan's still on the bubble. I don't know if they're going to make the tournament. But I think it was not just the frustration of that game. I think it was the frustration of the season when he expected to have a top 10 team, and he's got a team that's like 3 games over 500.
No, I know it's a shame. Michigan's certainly not, what they were. And even the other day had those throwback unis on for people forget the Fab Five didn't win anything. They lost in both back-to-back years, but Ramil Robinson had to hit those free throws against Seton Hall back in '89, and Steve Fisher's team, and he got the gig when I can't remember the guy before had taken a job with Arizona State before the season ended. And they asked him to, all right, we'll go. And Steve Fisher took over and led him to a championship, which was great. Andrew Gaze on that Seton Hall team, I remember. What a game! But that was their championship. They had the throwback unis on anyway. From that, most people think the Fab Five, the long shorts and whatnot. But yeah, interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. Before we go though, this really irks me because I really got into the nuts and bolts and the details of the MLB lockout because Manfred in the 11th hour looked like there might be some progress, and then there wasn't, and they already bailed on a couple series and opening day. It's just the greediness of these guys. And you said it before in pre-production, no one feels sorry for billionaires who take a little bit of a haircut during a COVID year or two. Because like you said, all right, whatever was $4, now it's $8. They'll make it up. And the fact that they have to make it up, I mean, again, come on, Gordon, how many yachts can you water ski behind, from Wall Street? Like what? And they want to expand the playoffs because they get all the revenue, and they want to keep the players, some of them in the minors, even though they're ready to come up. But there's that, there's those clauses that they'll have to pay money, even though they probably would bring them up. But, it's all a matter of how much time you accrue and blah, 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 blah. I think the players have a case, but again, they're also getting Max Scherzer, he gets his paid more that you said than a couple major league rosters, a couple major league. I mean, the money's ridiculous, but hey, listen, I agree. It's a little one-sided. I think I would think with all that money and all that pie, they could kind of divvy it out and be grown-ups about it, not be greedy bastards, because the fans, the real big fans of Major League Baseball, the ones that are getting hurt.
Yeah, decades ago, you always rooted for the players. It was, I mean, if you read up on even the '60s, Koufax and Drysdale, one of the greatest 1-2 pitchers of all time. Yeah. They held out together for like 125,000 in the mid or late '60s, I think. And Mickey Mantle told the story. He won the Triple Crown. He hit 370 the next year, but didn't win the Triple Crown. They wanted to cut his salary. I mean, you just hear such stupid stories. A lot of people think the 1919 White Sox threw the World Series because their owner was so cheap. And there's just stories from that. It almost goes with the union fighting of, in the 20s and 30s and 40s, people were dying to have unions because the bosses were so terrible. And it was the same in baseball before free agency. And then, Marvin Miller helps to get them free agency. They don't put him in the Hall of Fame till, after he's dead, that kind of stuff. So you can't be more petty than the owners, and it's multi-billionaires against multi-millionaires. And you still kind of root for the fans, but when Max Scherzer makes $43 million and 2 teams, I forget it, it's 2 teams out of the Orioles, the Marlins, and the Pirates. 2 of those 3 have less of a payroll for the whole team than Max Scherzer. So I do want to read one thing, though, because, look, you're still kind of rooting for the players, but all we care about is we want baseball.
Right.
And now they already canceled the first week. I think they're about to cancel the second week of real games. Spring training games are already canceled, but, because they need time once they come back. But here's the NFL Players Association wanted to give a "we're with you guys" to the MLB Players Association. Yeah. And they put out a statement, and here's the end of that statement. Quote, by fighting the good fight to secure a fair deal, everyone will benefit, including current and future generations of players, as well as the fans who love the sport of baseball. Now, we're big baseball fans. How do we benefit? We can't go to a game the first week. The game's canceled. They're not going to be made up. So this is, the NFL Players Association trying to help the MLB Players Association by making us think they're doing this for us. They're not doing this for us. All we're going to do is pay more in ticket prices and more in, parking will be $40 instead of $30 or whatever it is. Everything's going to go up, up, up. If you want to really faint, try and call certainly Yankee Stadium, to get a suite. You want to rent a suite for a day, you'll fall down. Thanks for the information. Yeah, I don't think I'm doing that. There are people in New York who literally fly to Baltimore. They fly to Baltimore and they fly back on a shuttle and they take an Uber to the ballpark, get real good seats, and it's cheaper than going to the best seats at Yankee Stadium. So you go see the Orioles play the Yankees.
That's bad.
That's a true story.
I know it is.
So the players don't have me in their corner as much as they used to. They still have me in their corner because, again, they're the multimillionaires. They're not the multi-billionaires. And I don't know what happened with the whole Jeter thing. I hope that comes out. I don't know what it means. We're going in a different direction. He resigned so suddenly, it makes you think something happened. It was just a weird time for him to just.
I thought so. Here. Yeah.
Don't know if we'll ever get the whole story. Would love to know which way the Marlins want to go, both of them, because either way has not been towards victory. I mean, they made the playoffs that one year by accident, that shortened season. But, they've been very bad for a very long time. Love Don Mattingly. Don't know what he's doing there. Trying to build something there. Do they have, I don't know. But in any event, I just thought it was disingenuous of the NFL Players Association. Now, maybe they're up, maybe their contract is up for in a year or two, and they want the baseball players to return the favor.
What does it do? Is this just one union backing the other? That was very nice of you to say that. Like, what does that do?
Yeah, it does nothing. I think it's to try and feed the fans some BS because it's going to help everybody, including us. Well, it's not going to help everybody. It's not going to help the owners if the players get a better deal, but I don't care about the owners.
Right.
But I do care as a fan and for the fans, the notion that this lockout by the owners and the players are going to get a fair deal, the notion that's going to benefit you and me, I think that's total BS, and I don't know why anyone would believe it. But, we got a lot of stupid people, so maybe some people will believe it. Oh, yay, they got a good deal for themselves. Now we're happy, we're helped. How much is that beer?
Right?
How much is it to park?
Unbelievable.
So that's my view. I'm still for the players. But again, when you start to see players make more than other teams, it's kind of a tipping point for me. And Scherzer should get every nickel he should get. Good for him. He got somebody to pay him $43 million. I don't begrudge these guys whatever they can get, but at some point you got to take a look and say, does that really help me? For years I heard people say, oh yeah, what the players get, it doesn't really affect what you pay to go to a ball game.
Really?
Because of TV contracts. I'm like, get out of here. Okay, if that's true, then make admission free.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
make a bottle of water $1 and a beer, $2. I mean, it's everybody's always trying to manipulate the fans, I think, in these arguments. And this one certainly isn't working for me. Although, again, I'm still for the millionaires over the billionaires, but not as strongly as I once was.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, man. Excuse me. Appreciate you watching, folks. You can catch Steve and all of his good stuff. He updates his Facebook page daily, Speaking of Sports with Steve Kallas. You can also check out his videos at westchestercountypost.com on YouTube, this podcast on YouTube, also Steve's Facebook forum page, Speaking of Sports again, with Steve Kallas right there. And it'll be on my Facebook page shortly. We usually tape every Friday or Saturday morning. And We're finding new ways to get it out there and to, spread it out more so more people can see it. So, but we appreciate you watching. Everyone who's been with us since inception. It's been about 5 years now. Anyway, Steve, you can follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Joe Staszak 975. Great stuff again, my friend. Enjoy the games. No football. We got hoops coming up. We got some interesting NBA hoops coming up. And we certainly have March Madness Selection Sunday around the corner. Appreciate it, bub.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
All right. Thanks, folks. And you enjoy your weekend. Be safe. God bless. Talk to you soon. I'm blind.